Hello everyone, welcome to History at Bedtime. Tonight, we're going to drift quietly into a world of longships, slicing through misty fjords, crackling fires in wooden halls, and winds that carry the faint scent of salt and iron. A world where the line between adventure, danger, and celebration was as thin as the blade of a Viking's axe. And every village, river, and coastline held stories both fierce and strangely human. A gentle warning: this story may make the past feel startlingly vivid. You probably won't make it through this day without imagining the roar of the sea or the clang of swords. And that's exactly the point. Let curiosity soften the edges of the present and allow yourself to drift alongside the raiders who explored, conquered, and sometimes simply partied hard. Before we go further, leave a comment with your location and local time. It's a quiet way to connect our imaginations across time and space. And if you enjoy letting history unfold slowly, soothingly, and curiously, please like this video and subscribe. Here, there's no rush, only stories waiting to carry you gently through time. Take a deep, calming breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let the day slip softly away. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. Tonight, we will follow the Viking raiders across icy seas and lush river valleys, through longships that gleamed in dawn light and halls that rang with music and laughter. We'll peek into their strategies, their feasts, their daily lives, and the legends they left behind. Stories of cunning, bravery, and revelry. Along the way, we'll feel the rhythm of the waves, the pulse of adventure, and the hum of history itself, carrying you gently towards sleep as these ancient tales drift into your imagination. Thank you for joining me tonight. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. You wake to the sound of waves lapping against longships, the salty tang of the northern sea teasing your nose. Mist curls lazily over the fjord, hiding the world in soft, grey mystery. You probably won't make it through this day without wishing for a warm fire and a mug of something hearty. But let's gently wander anyway. The Vikings begin their story not with terror, though that's what they're most famous for, but with home. Rugged, fjord-cut villages of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Imagine wooden huts with thatched roofs, smoke curling from central hearths, and the distant lowing of cattle. Life is raw, often cold, and frequently interrupted by a storm or a hungry wolf. Yet, in the midst of hardship, there is rhythm. Children chase goats along pebbled paths. Women tend gardens of hardy root vegetables, and men sharpen tools with the precision of someone who knows the winter will last too long if the plough fails. The first recorded Viking raid in Western Europe occurred in 793 CE at Lindisfarne, an English monastery, shocking the Christian world with their lightning-fast attacks. Viking longships were marvels of engineering, capable of sliding up rivers as easily as skimming along open seas. You might imagine the gleaming curves of wood slicing through silver water like a knife through butter. Curiously, Vikings had a taste for what we'd call party culture. They loved a feast, and their drinking rituals were as strategic as any raid. Mead, ale flowed freely at gatherings, and storytelling was considered a civic duty. Even today, archaeologists find evidence of vessels large enough to suggest competitive drinking, though historians still debate whether these were primarily ceremonial or simply an excuse for rowdiness. A peculiar tidbit: Vikings sometimes honored cats by letting them roam freely on ships. Why cats? They were experts at catching rodents, yes, but also considered protectors of hearth and home, maybe even lucky charms against the capricious sea. You can picture it, a small, agile silhouette navigating the narrow wooden planks, tail high, confident as any seasoned sailor. You hear the creak of timber and the slap of water against the hull, a rhythm that could lull a person to sleep if they weren't constantly marveling at the balance required to navigate such a craft. These ships were light, elegant, deadly in battle, and occasionally used as floating palaces for feasts of fish and mead. Remember the soft mist curling over the fjord, its back hugging the coastline like a memory. And as you gaze into it, imagine the horizon stretching endlessly, promising conquest, discovery, and a touch of chaos. By mid-morning, the village is alive with preparation. Longships are polished, sails checked, and oars waxed for speed. You walk through the bustling settlement, inhaling a mix of salt, smoke, and wood smoke, wondering if you should politely decline the roasted fish being offered by a grinning fisherman. The locals, unfazed by strangers, carry on as if you're invisible, but you catch a gleam of curiosity in their eyes. Maybe they sense your inexperience with longships. Maybe they're amused at the way you almost trip over a coil of rope. Vikings didn't only plunder, they traded extensively, bringing silver textiles, spices, and even exotic slaves from as far as Baghdad and Constantinople. Their raids were highly strategic. Timing, weather, and reconnaissance often determined success more than sheer brutality. You could say they were more Wall Street than chaos incarnate, though with slightly heavier helmets. In the center of the village, a group of young warriors practices battle drills, shields clanging in soft metal harmony. Their instructor, a veteran, with one eye and a surprisingly gentle smile, calls out corrections while gesturing grandly with a wooden sword. You notice the rhythm in their movements, almost dance-like, as if each step has been rehearsed over countless winters. It is hard not to admire their dedication, or the way one young man flinches dramatically at every swing, making you smile. An obscure cultural tidbit: Vikings sometimes carried small wooden charms called fjords as talismans, believed to protect them during both battle and travel. These tiny carvings of animals or symbols might be hidden in a boot, stitched into clothing, or tucked into a pocket, unnoticed by anyone but their bearer. You imagine one slipping into the fold of a rough wool tunic, quietly offering courage that no sword could. Their social life, by the way, was surprisingly lively. Feasts could last days. Songs and poetry were shared publicly, and games of chance were common entertainment. Alcohol and storytelling often mixed, creating a world both chaotic and structured, a delicate balance of order and indulgence. Historians still debate whether these long feasts were truly recreational or had subtle political and social functions, cementing bonds among warriors and chieftains. As the sun climbs higher, You can almost hear the sea calling, urging the fleet to depart. Longships creak as they're eased into the water, the smell of tar and salt thick in the air. You step closer, toes gripping wet planks, feeling the rhythm of potential adventure beneath your feet. This is the moment when preparation meets destiny, when the quiet village you walked past earlier becomes the launch pad for voyages that will ripple across coasts, kingdoms, and stories yet to be told. The fleet glides through the early morning mist, longships slicing through mirrored water as if the fjord itself has decided to escort you. You breathe in the cold, salty air, your lungs filling with both excitement and something you can't quite name. Perhaps the thrill of seeing the world stretch beyond familiar peaks. Waves lap gently against the hulls, a lullaby for anyone who isn't obsessively checking for hidden rocks or the sudden appearance of enemy scouts. You probably won't make it through this day without imagining yourself swaying on these decks, balancing between adventure and seasickness. But isn't that the fun of it? Vikings travelled astonishing distances, reaching the British Isles, Ireland, France, and even as far as North America, Vinland, around 1000 CE. Long before Columbus set sail, their longships were symmetrical, allowing them to reverse direction without turning, a clever design for both raids and explorations. It's almost like having a car that can moonwalk backwards. As you walk along the deck, your toes brushing the slick wood, you notice small rituals. A warrior ties a charm to the mast, a tiny carved bear, perhaps for strength, perhaps for luck. Nearby a minstrel hums quietly, strumming a lyre, adding music to the rhythm of paddles, dipping, and the whisper of the wind. It is strangely soothing, a reminder that even raiders carry poetry with them, often hidden in their laughter and their songs. Curiously, Vikings had a taste for elaborate hairstyles, braiding hair and beards in intricate patterns, not unlike the designs they carved on wood and stone. Maybe it was vanity, maybe it was intimidation, perhaps a bit of both. You can imagine one young warrior flipping his braids back dramatically before a planned raid, ensuring he looks suitably terrifying and stylish simultaneously. Historians still debate whether these long-distance voyages were motivated by hunger, ambition, or simply a desire to show off. Probably a little bit of all three. The fleet continues, the mist slowly lifting to reveal distant shores. A gull cries overhead, and you wonder if it knows which settlements will greet these visitors with terror, which with trade, and which with a polite nod, hoping the strangers take only the fish and leave the sheep. Your eyes catch the glint of something on the horizon, a cluster of sails belonging to other ships, perhaps friends, perhaps foes. The world beyond the fjord is enormous, unpredictable, and strangely inviting. You take a deep breath, feeling the gentle sway beneath your feet, and let yourself imagine the stories waiting to unfold on shores yet unseen. Remember the charm tied to the mast. It's still there, watching over everyone quietly, like a little wooden guardian of luck and chaos alike. By midday, the first coastline of the target land appears, rising out of the haze like a secret waiting to be discovered. You step carefully, toes gripping wet planks as the longships slide into shallower water. Seagulls wheel above, indifferent to history unfolding below. While the smell of salt and brine intensifies, you might wish for a blanket right now to sit on the deck and just watch the waves, because even in anticipation of a raid, there is a peaceful rhythm to travel, like a heartbeat of water beneath the wood. Viking raids often targeted monasteries and coastal settlements, largely for wealth and supplies, rather than pure destruction. The Vikings established trading outposts alongside raiding, creating networks from Ireland to Russia, sometimes integrating into local societies. A city might fear a Viking, but secretly covet their silver. As you step closer to shore, you notice small, subtle signs of life on land. Smoke from chimneys curling skyward, children running through fields, a dog barking in the distance. You are about to become part of a story told from both sides of the shoreline, and you feel that peculiar tension of intrusion mixed with awe. Your boots splash in shallow water, sending tiny ripples outward, as if even you can't escape influencing the world around you. Vikings sometimes carried small whetstones as personal items, sharpening knives not only for combat, but for carving wood or preparing food. You can picture one warrior sitting quietly, honing a blade while humming a tune, a minor act of calm amidst planning chaos. Humor bubbles quietly beneath the surface. One young warrior trips over a rope, muttering under his breath, and you realize even legends of the sea have moments of human clumsiness. Another swears that he saw a seal mocking them from the shore. Perhaps it did, or perhaps it's just the imagination stretching across the misty water. Historians still debate how much of Viking lore, ferocious, berserking warriors versus skilled navigators and traders, was amplified for dramatic storytelling. Probably a mix. As most legends tend to be, you step off the ship, feeling the crunch of pebbles underfoot, and notice that even the smallest village can hide enormous history waiting to be revealed through quiet observation, whispers of trade, and tales that echo over centuries. The village greets you with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. Smoke drifts lazily from chimneys, curling like hesitant fingers into the sky, and the scent of fresh bread mingles oddly with the salty tang from the sea. You step carefully on the uneven cobbles, wondering if anyone notices your boots squishing in the morning dew. You probably won't make it through this day without imagining yourself fending off some invisible mishap, but let's wander anyway. Vikings sometimes used intimidation as a tool, painting faces with woad and shouting war cries, though they preferred careful planning over chaos. Despite their reputation, many Vikings were skilled farmers, shipbuilders, and craftsmen, blending aggression with meticulous skill. You can almost admire the precision of a longship builder, sanding planks to a gleam, while the same hands swing axes with practiced efficiency. You notice a group of villagers gathering around a cart piled high with furs and hides. Trade is a delicate dance, a grin here, a raised eyebrow there, and perhaps a hand on the hilt of a sword just in case negotiations go sideways. It's a subtle art, like chess, but with more biting sarcasm and occasional mead-induced theatrics. Vikings sometimes carried small tokens of their favorite animals, like carved wolves or birds, for protection or luck. Maybe one hangs from a belt or peeks from a pocket, tiny companions in a vast and unpredictable world, humor nudges at your mind. One merchant holds up a strangely twisted fish, claiming it's a delicacy from the far north, and you quietly wonder if it's less about taste and more about testing your courage. Another young warrior trips over his own sword, muttering about the dishonor of gravity. Historians still debate how cooperative local populations were with Viking traders versus raiders. Some settlements welcomed them, others fortified themselves. You wander past the cart and notice the shadows stretching long across the cobbles, a reminder that time, like tide, is always moving, pulling stories forward and leaving others behind. Afternoon drifts lazily across the settlement as you follow a narrow path towards a small dock. Longships sway gently in the shallow harbor, oars still glistening with fresh water rinsed from their morning voyage. You hear the occasional clink of metal, the soft laughter of children mimicking the warrior's dance, and the rhythmic tapping of a blacksmith hammering metal into swords and nails alike. The day feels heavy with potential, each sound a gentle reminder of human life continuing amid grand adventures. Vikings not only raided, but often settled in conquered lands, integrating with locals and leaving behind a legacy of place names, crafts, and even legal systems. They maintained surprisingly detailed records of voyages and trade routes, often carved into wood or etched in memory, allowing future generations to retrace paths across seas and rivers. You wander past the blacksmith, imagining the heat of the forge warming even the coldest hands, sparks flying like miniature constellations in the dim light. Nearby, a warrior sharpens his sword, careful to avoid cutting himself, a task requiring patience that is almost meditative. Vikings sometimes wore amulets shaped like Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, not just for religious reasons, but also as symbols of strength and social status. One might peek out from under a tunic, glinting in the sun, reassuring its wearer quietly. Humor drifts across the scene. A young apprentice tries to swing a hammer like a pro and ends up almost toppling the anvil, grumbling about the betrayal of physics. A local dog barks, seemingly judging his clumsiness, and you can't help but chuckle. Another warrior insists on recounting an exaggerated tale of a battle that definitely happened exactly like this, and you wonder if exaggeration was as common as mead at their feasts. Some historians still debate the balance between Viking ferocity and diplomacy. One raid might be paired with a treaty, one village plundered, and another carefully befriended. You notice the sun dipping lower, brushing everything in golden light, the village humming softly, like a lullaby built from human life, anticipation, and the quiet strength of a people who have sailed far and dreamt even further. The evening air carries a crisp tang as you follow the villagers back to the longships, the harbour now quieting as the day begins to fold into night. You feel the gentle sway of the ships underfoot, a soft reminder that water is always in motion, and so are the lives that traverse it. You probably won't make it through this day without imagining a rogue wave sneaking up to remind everyone who really rules the sea. But for now, let the quiet hum of lapping water guide you. Vikings sometimes held feasts to celebrate successful voyages or raids, often featuring salted fish, cured meats, and ale. creating a rhythm of work and revelry. They honored the gods with ritual sacrifices, sometimes small animals, sometimes symbolic offerings, to ensure safe passage and victory. It's a delicate balance of celebration and superstition, like checking your phone 3 times before leaving home. You notice a group of warriors sitting around a small fire on the shore, the glow reflecting in their eyes as they recount the day's happenings. There is laughter, a bit of exaggerated bravado, and an occasional quiet pause as someone glances at the sea, remembering the vast distances traveled, the friends left behind, and the unknown yet to be discovered. Many Vikings sometimes played board games, like Nafatas, a strategic contest that predates modern chess. You can picture a young warrior quietly plotting moves, his brow furrowed in concentration, while nearby comrades cheer for trivial victories. A small joke whispers past your mind. One warrior insists the ale tastes better if you tell it a story first, and another replies that the ale has already lived more exciting tales than either of them combined. A young child giggles at this exchange, demonstrating that humor, like courage, spans generations. Many historians still debate how much Viking rituals influenced their actual behavior during raids. Some argue ceremonies were mostly social, others believe they were deeply spiritual. You sit by the fire a while longer, listening to the gentle crackle of flames, letting your mind drift across memories, myths, and the infinite horizon beyond the fjord. Night falls softly over the village, draping roofs and docks in deep blue and muted silver. Lanterns flicker along narrow paths, sending shadows that dance like whispered stories across walls. You walk slowly, each step absorbing the hush of human life, mingling with natural rhythms. The distant crash of waves, the hoot of an owl, the soft murmur of conversation carried across empty streets. You probably won't make it through this night without imagining the longships rocking gently under moonlight. But that is exactly where you want to be. Viking navigation relied on sun compasses, stars, and the observation of birds, allowing them to cross open seas with remarkable accuracy. They also used landmarks, water currents, and even ocean swells as guides, blending observation with intuition in ways that feel almost magical today. You wander past a small dock where a lone figure tends to a fishing net, pulling it gently, as if coaxing the sea to give up its secrets. Another warrior leans against a post, quietly carving runes into wood, perhaps marking a journey, perhaps recording a thought, a memory, or a dream. The night is alive with small acts of humanity, each a quiet anchor against the chaos of a world beyond. Vikings sometimes slept with a small dagger under their pillow, not only for protection, but as a talisman against bad dreams or evil spirits. You can imagine one warrior rolling over, sighing into the night air, comforted by the silent presence of iron and intention. Humor drifts lazily. A young warrior tries to demonstrate a heroic pose to impress a companion, only to trip on a stray rope, eliciting laughter and an exaggerated eye roll from his friend. Another insists the stars are conspiring to make him the greatest raider, while secretly hoping no one notices he's holding his cloak too tightly. Some historians still debate the extent to which Viking mythology influenced daily decision-making. Some acts may have been superstition, others performative bravado. You stroll along the moonlit harbour, letting the soft scent of salt, wood, and distant smoke lull your senses, realizing that even amidst tales of conquest, plunder, and revelry, there exists a quiet rhythm that feels almost like a lullaby. The first light of dawn creeps gently over the fjord, painting the longships in muted gold and silver. You walk along the shoreline, feeling the cool sand slip beneath your boots, and notice the mist curling around the prow of a ship like it has secrets to share. You probably won't make it through this morning without imagining the longships slicing through waves. But that's exactly the kind of gentle adventure we want. Vikings explored far beyond Scandinavia, reaching as far as North America centuries before Columbus, establishing temporary settlements and trading posts. They traded not only in furs and weapons, but also in silver, amber, and slaves, creating a network of exchange that spanned continents. The reach of their curiosity and ambition feels astonishing against the quiet hush of the fjord. You notice a few warriors carrying baskets of smoked fish, their steps careful, measured, as if performing a ritual of gratitude to the sea that has provided sustenance. A young girl collects shells along the edge, arranging them in patterns that seem deliberate, meditative, almost ceremonial. Life, you realize, is always a mix of survival, strategy, and small moments of quiet beauty. Vikings sometimes dyed their clothing in bright colors, using natural pigments from plants, insects, or minerals, so a cheerful red tunic might hide a warrior's secret fear of cold mornings. A subtle laugh tickles your mind. A burly fisherman mutters about trading his axe for a softer pillow, and his friend replies that the pillow won't fight the trolls for him. Another warrior attempts to impress a child by juggling coins, only to fumble them into the sand, prompting a chorus of giggles. The size and permanence of Viking settlements in North America. Some suggest they were brief and limited. Others imagine thriving outposts lost to time. You breathe in the salty air and watch the fjord shimmer, realizing that exploration, like sleep, requires both courage and patience. By midday, the village hums with quiet activity, the rhythm of ordinary life filling the spaces between adventure and myth. Smoke curls from chimneys, mingling with the scent of salt and seaweed, and the faint clatter of hammers and tools echoes softly against wooden walls. You probably won't make it through this hour without picturing the bustling life of a Viking settlement. But that's exactly where the magic lives, in small details. Viking law was surprisingly structured, often enforced at local assemblies called things, where free men debated and judged disputes in open forums. Women held more rights than in many contemporary societies, able to own property, inherit wealth, and even influence political decisions in certain contexts. Imagine that, a society of raiders with a surprisingly organized sense of justice. You wander past a communal hall where a soft argument is unfolding over fish distribution. The voices measured, almost rhythmic, like poetry disguised as bureaucracy. Nearby, a craftsman hunches over a wooden carving, his hands steady, tracing ancient symbols with care. There's a quiet artistry in the ordinary, a sense that every moment contains a story waiting to be noticed. Vikings sometimes used the skulls of animals in rituals, fashioning them into drinking cups or decorative items, a strange blend of practicality and ceremony that might make a modern archaeologist blink. A gentle chuckle drifts across your thoughts. A boy attempts to climb a stack of firewood to impress a companion, only to slide down like an uncoordinated sled, while laughter follows him in waves. Another warrior boasts about his ability to outdrink everyone in the hall, and you quietly wonder if he knows his audience might quietly be planning a nap strategy instead. Historians still debate the influence of Viking women in political spheres. Some sources suggest they were central figures, others downplay their role. You sit on a bench near the hall, letting the midday warmth wash over you, absorbing the faint scent of wood smoke, salt, and freshly caught fish, realizing that even amid raiding tales, life carried simple, grounding rhythms. The afternoon sun begins to tilt low, casting elongated shadows across the village and glinting off the water like scattered coins. You stroll along the docks, feeling the gentle pull of the tide beneath the ships, each wave whispering secrets of lands yet unseen. You probably won't make it through this day without imagining a sail catching the wind, taking you on a journey to distant shores. But that is exactly where we want to drift. Vikings weren't just warriors. Many were skilled artisans, creating intricate jewelry, carved wooden objects, and decorated weapons that reflected both their status and their stories. Their ships, the longships, were marvels of engineering, light enough to be carried over land when needed, yet sturdy enough to traverse open seas. It's as if they combined a love for adventure with a surprisingly precise sense of design. You pause near a small workshop where a craftsman delicately etches knotwork into a sword hilt. The metallic scent mingles with the salty breeze, and a nearby child watches intently, absorbing the rhythms of skill, patience, and focus. Everyday life hums with the quiet satisfaction of creation, of moments repeated enough to feel ritualistic yet intimate. Vikings sometimes used animal bladders as primitive balloons for entertainment or celebration, inflating them and letting them float across the yard like tiny, squeaky clouds. A quiet joke drifts through your mind. A young apprentice complains that the knots on his carving keep rebelling, and the master replies that even wood has its moods. Another laughs at his own reflection in a polished sword, pretending it's a worthy opponent for imaginary duels. Historians would say how much these artistic expressions influenced Viking social hierarchy. Some suggest wealth and skill were closely tied. Others argue symbolism mattered more. You watch the sun glimmer on the fjord, letting your thoughts drift gently with the light and water, feeling the soft hum of a world at once fierce and tender. Evening seeps slowly over the village, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and muted purple. You wander past the long houses, hearing the soft murmur of conversation and the occasional clatter of tools finishing the day's work. You probably won't make it through this twilight without imagining the stories shared over mead and roasted fish. But that is exactly where the gentle magic of Viking life rests. Vikings were known to hold storytelling gatherings called sagas, where tales of heroes, gods, and far-off lands were shared orally, preserving history and myth alike. Poetry was deeply intertwined with Norse culture. Skalds composed elaborate verses to honor kings, commemorate events, or entertain audiences, a blend of art and social commentary. You pass a small circle of villagers sitting around a fire pit, listening intently as an elder recounts a tale of a stormy voyage and a cunning escape. The flames flicker in time with the storyteller's voice, shadows twisting and shifting like living illustrations. There is laughter, quiet gasps, and moments of reflection, a tapestry woven from shared memory and imagination. Vikings sometimes used whistles made from bird bones to communicate over long distances, a hauntingly melodic method that could pierce the wind across fjords. A subtle laugh warms your thoughts. A young boy imitates the elder's dramatic gestures, tripping over his own feet, while a nearby dog scampers to investigate the commotion. Another warrior claims he could tell the best tale while blindfolded, and his friends politely wonder if he could at least stay upright first. It is still a debate how accurately these sagas reflect historical events versus imaginative embellishment. You settle on a nearby bench, letting the smoke and warmth drift gently around you, realizing that even amidst tales of conquest and daring, the human need to gather, tell, and connect quietly guides life forward. Nightfall drapes over the fjord like a soft velvet curtain, and the stars begin to twinkle, reflected faintly in the dark waters. You walk along the shoreline again, the sand cool beneath your feet, and hear the distant creak of a longship as it sways gently in the harbor. You probably won't make it through this night without imagining the quiet bravery of a crew preparing for an unknown journey. But that's exactly where we want to linger. Vikings navigated using landmarks, the sun, stars, and even birds, demonstrating a deep, intuitive understanding of their environment long before modern instruments. They were known to explore and settle in places as far-flung as Iceland, Greenland, and Newfoundland, leaving traces of their presence through artifacts and settlements. Their curiosity and courage seem almost poetic against the calm of the fjord. Nearby, a blacksmith finishes his work, the ringing of hammer on iron fading into the soft lapping of water. The aroma of burning wood and molten metal mixes with the salty air, grounding you in the sensory rhythm of the village at night. You notice a young girl arranging small stones into patterns near the water, an almost secretive act of play that feels timeless. Some Viking graves contain food, tools, and toys, suggesting a belief that the dead might need comfort or playthings in the afterlife. A quiet, ironic thought floats in. A seasoned warrior complains about the chill, claiming the sea has less respect for old bones, while a younger companion counters that bones have always survived just fine. Mostly, another laughs at his own reflection in the water, practicing his fearsome Viking glare, only to end up grinning at himself instead. Many historians still debate how extensive Viking exploration of North America truly was. Evidence is tantalizing but fragmentary. You breathe in the cool night air, letting your senses absorb the gentle lull of the fjord, imagining the adventures of distant lands while remaining safe on the shoreline. The village settles into a hushed rhythm, the faint glow of lanterns casting warm pools of light on wooden walkways. You wander past the longhouses, noticing the soft shadows moving inside as families prepare for the night. You probably won't make it through this evening without picturing the delicate balance of ordinary life and legendary deeds. But that quiet tension is exactly what makes the night feel alive. Vikings practiced communal meals where everyone shared food, fostering bonds of trust and mutual reliance. A social glue that was just as important as bravery in battle. Mead, a fermented honey drink, was central to celebrations and feasts, often consumed during storytelling weddings and victories alike. The rituals of consumption and conversation carry a gentle human warmth. You pause near a small fire where villagers roast fish and share bread, the aroma mingling with the scent of pine and smoke drifting from nearby chimneys. Children chase small animals in playful loops, and dogs curl up lazily at their feet. Life in these moments seems less about conquest and more about connection, rhythm, and the quiet joy of presence. Lots of Vikings sometimes used elaborately decorated drinking horns, not just for mead, but as a symbol of status, with some even inlaid with precious metals or runes. A subtle smile forms. One warrior carefully balances his horn while trying to toast the sky, only to spill a drop and mutter that the gods have a sense of humor. Another laughs at a child pretending to wield a wooden sword, imagining himself as a mighty raider in miniature. The precise recipes and methods of Viking mead making, leaving us to wonder how closely modern recreations match the originals. You settle onto a nearby bench, letting the warmth of the fires and soft clatter of evening life lull you, imagining the glow of a world that balances legend, routine, and the slow, comforting passage of time. Late night drifts across the fjord, soft and thick like wool, and you walk slowly past the docks, feeling the gentle sway of the water beneath the longships. You probably won't make it through this hour without imagining the quiet hum of sailors preparing for voyages under moonlight. But that's exactly where the magic settles. Vikings often slept in communal halls with other warriors, sharing warmth and camaraderie, their dreams intertwined with the creak of ships and the whisper of the sea. They sometimes used animal hides and furs not only for warmth, but to signify rank or achievements, making their sleeping arrangements a subtle display of status. Nearby, a group of young men practices rowing in sync on a small training boat, their paddles slicing the water with rhythmic precision. The gentle slap of oars against the surface becomes almost musical, like a lullaby for the fjord itself. A cat slinks across the pier, tail high, its movements precise and deliberate, observing the nocturnal activity with feline judgment. Some Vikings believed dreams were messages from the gods or omens of events yet to come, giving sleep a sacred quality beyond rest. A soft chuckle arises. A young apprentice tries to balance a lantern on the edge of the dock, pretending It's a magic orb and narrowly avoids plunging it into the water. Another whispers to a companion that the cat is probably judging him for his rowing technique, and the laughter drifts across the water. Many historians still debate how much Viking daily life was influenced by superstition versus practicality, but either way, the night feels full of attentive, quiet wonder. You settle on a low dock edge, letting the dark water reflect moonlight into your mind, feeling the gentle pull of night, like a subtle, ongoing heartbeat. Before midnight, the village is wrapped in silence, the soft murmurs of life fading into the gentle rhythm of night. You walk past the longhouses, hearing faint snores, the crackle of a dying fire, and the occasional low call of a watchman guarding the fjord. You probably won't make it through this quiet hour without imagining the guardians of the night, alert yet peaceful, but that balance is exactly what makes this moment feel safe. Vikings maintained coastal watch posts, often on cliffs or hilltops, to observe approaching ships, a strategy that combined vigilance with patience. They were skilled at reading the weather currents and cloud formations, understanding the signs that could warn of storms or signal opportunity at sea. A soft breeze carries the scent of pine and salt water as you pause near a watchtower. You notice a lantern swinging gently inside, its light creating dancing shadows that mimic the movements of the sailors who once stood watch. The village feels like a living diorama of quiet rhythms, where every whisper of wind and clink of metal becomes part of a larger, soothing symphony. Some Viking sailors used sunstones, a type of crystal, to locate the sun's position even on cloudy days. A clever mix of science, superstition, and necessity. A subtle smile forms. A young sentinel hums a tune as he polishes his sword, imagining it as a stage prop for some grand Viking opera. Another warrior quietly tests a small crossbow, noting the echo through the fjord, and wonders if he's more inventor than raider. In fact, many historians still debate the extent to which sunstones were commonly used versus being a rare experimental tool. But either way, the ingenuity of these people lingers in the night. You settle on a nearby rock, letting the soft breeze carry your thoughts across the fjord, feeling the slow, deliberate heartbeat of a world both wild and gentle. The first hints of dawn begin to blush on the horizon, soft pink and gold stretching lazily across the sky. You walk along the fjord's edge, where the water mirrors the gentle awakening of the world. You probably won't make it through this hour without imagining a new day filled with voyages, chores, and tales. But that's exactly where the quiet beauty resides. Vikings began their mornings with simple routines, cleaning tools, tending animals, and preparing food, showing that even legendary raiders had to start the day with the mundane. They often practiced physical training, including wrestling and axe throwing, ensuring both strength and skill for whatever the day might bring. Near a small barn, you see a young girl feeding chickens, tossing grain carefully, while the birds cluck in appreciative chaos. The scent of fresh bread from the longhouse drifts over the wooden fence, blending with the earthy aroma of wet soil and pine. Life moves slowly, even when legend and lore suggest it is fast-paced and violent. Some Vikings believed that brushing your hair in the morning could sweep away bad spirits, turning mundane grooming into a ritual of protection. A subtle laugh drifts through. A boy attempts to lift a small practice sword, but ends up tipping over, and his companions tease him, noting that lifting swords might require more than enthusiasm. Another warrior complains that the smell of baking bread distracts him from his stretching exercises, and a quiet chuckle ripples along the fence. The balance between ritual and practicality in Viking morning routines. But either way, the day begins with intent and rhythm. You pause on the shore, letting the pink light spill across your vision, feeling the gentle stir of a world readying itself for another story. Mid-morning light spills fully across the village, glinting on wooden roofs and water surfaces alike. You stroll through the central square, the smell of wood smoke and fresh earth wrapping around you. You probably won't make it through this bustling hour without imagining the quiet order behind the apparent chaos of Viking life. But that gentle contrast is exactly what makes the world feel lived in and tender. Vikings often held markets and fairs, trading everything from furs and metalwork to spices and exotic goods, showing a cosmopolitan side that is easy to overlook. They maintained complex legal systems with local assemblies known as things, where disputes were settled and decisions were made collectively. A surprisingly sophisticated governance structure. You notice a small crowd gathered near a market stall, inspecting brightly dyed wool and carved trinkets. A merchant gestures animatedly, bargaining with a visiting trader, while a child tugs at a father's sleeve, enchanted by the shimmering beads, the soft hum of conversation, clatter of coins, and occasional burst of laughter create a gentle, grounding soundtrack. Some Viking traders carried small, portable balances to weigh coins on the go, blending practicality with meticulous attention to fairness and trust. A light-hearted observation. One merchant jests that his wares are so fine they might charm a troll into trading gold, and the child laughs, imagining a tiny, polite troll. Another exchanges a wink with a friend as they test the quality of wool, remarking that even Vikings appreciated good craftsmanship, and the joke lingers like a soft echo in the market. The scale and frequency of Viking trade networks, but the evidence shows remarkable connectivity. You pause near a fountain, letting the gentle splash blend with the hum of voices, feeling the rhythm of a society both practical and poetic, preparing for the unfolding day. Afternoon settles softly over the village, sunlight dappling the wooden walkways and flickering across the hulls of longships gently rocking in the harbour. You stroll along the quay, the scent of salt, pine, and smoke mingling in the warm breeze. You probably won't make it through this hour without imagining both ordinary and extraordinary lives unfolding here. But that duality is exactly what makes it so peaceful to observe. Vikings maintained intricate shipyards, building longships that were both fast and flexible, capable of crossing oceans and navigating shallow rivers alike. They used clinker-built techniques, overlapping planks secured with iron rivets, which allowed the hulls to flex without breaking, a design ahead of its time and vital for both raiding and exploration. You notice a craftsman carefully smoothing a plank, his hands darkened with pitch and oil. The rhythmic scraping and gentle clang of tools become a lullaby, a steady beat in the afternoon quiet. Nearby, children play near stacked barrels, inventing small games that mirror the larger adventures of the sailors whose ships they admire. An obscure tidbit: some Vikings decorated their ship prows with intricate carvings, from dragons to serpents, believed to ward off evil spirits or intimidate foes, adding a poetic flourish to functionality. A subtle smile. A boy pretends to row a barrel like a longship, calling to imaginary enemies, while an older warrior chuckles, suggesting the raiding technique may need some refinement. Another teases that the dragon on the ship prow probably prefers fish to foes, and the gentle laughter drifts across the harbour. Historians still debate how frequently Vikings actually used their ships for long-distance raids versus local travel and trade. You settle by the water, letting the soft sunlight and rhythmic lapping of the fjord carry your thoughts, feeling the quiet power of a world shaped by skill, curiosity, and imagination. The sun begins to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky with warm amber, rose, and gold. You walk slowly through the village, now bathed in the mellow light of evening, noticing how shadows stretch lazily across the wooden planks and soft waves glint along the fjord. You probably won't make it through this final hour without imagining the lives of both ordinary villagers and legendary raiders. But that blend of everyday and epic is exactly what makes the moment feel complete. Vikings held seasonal celebrations, often timed with solstices and equinoxes, blending communal feasts, storytelling, and ritual observances into a tapestry of social and spiritual life. They revered a pantheon of gods and goddesses, with Odin, Thor, and Freya guiding moral codes, personal courage, and the natural order, infusing daily life with myth and meaning. Nearby, a fire is lit in a communal hall, casting soft light over faces relaxed with contentment. Children chase small animals or weave simple toys from wood and wool. The aroma of roasted fish, bread, and spiced mead mingles with the pine-scented air, grounding you in the sensory world of the village. An obscure tidbit: Vikings sometimes wrote messages or charms on small wooden sticks, placing them beneath household thresholds to bring luck or protection. A subtle blend of superstition and daily mindfulness. A gentle laugh. A warrior demonstrates a dramatic retelling of a recent raid with exaggerated gestures, while the children imitate him with oversized wooden swords, creating a quiet theatre of imagination. Another remarks that the gods probably enjoy the performance too, and everyone smiles, the moment feeling shared warm and soft. The extent to which Viking myths were consistently practiced versus evolving locally, but the legacy remains. You pause on a small hill overlooking the fjord, letting the fading light, gentle sounds, and soft scents settle in your senses. The sky deepens into a gentle twilight, colors melting from amber to soft indigo, and the first stars shimmer faintly above. You breathe in slowly, the crisp air carrying whispers of pine, salt water, and the faint smoke of evening fires. The village below has quieted, footsteps muffled by soft earth, and the lapping of the fjord provides a gentle rhythmic pulse. You imagine the longships swaying gently at anchor, their dragon-headed prows nodding in a dreamlike cadence. Shadows of the longhouses stretch lazily, merging with the soft contours of the land, creating a world that feels both expansive and intimate. Children's laughter has faded into hushed murmurs. The fires burn low, and the occasional cry of a distant bird punctuates the peaceful canvas. You feel the lingering presence of those who walked here before, their hands shaping wood and stone, their songs and stories echoing faintly in the cool air, a quiet chorus of human endeavor. The rhythm of daily life, the ebb and flow of work, ritual and celebration seems to carry you on a soft, unhurried wave. Each breath blends with the smell of earth and pine, the warmth of fires and hearths, and the gentle reflections on the water. Thoughts of voyages, legends, and quiet acts of courage mingle effortlessly with the mundane and tender moments of ordinary life. You feel the pulse of a civilization that balanced wonder with practicality, myth with daily routine, and boldness with calm. The world softens around you, a slow, deliberate unfolding of night. You sink further into the sensation of safety, warmth, and connection, letting the fjord, the village, and the lingering echo of Viking life cradle you. In this suspended moment, you drift gently, carried on the serene waves of history and imagination, surrendering fully to the soft, endless rhythm of night, until sleep welcomes you like a calm, inevitable tide. Thank you for joining me tonight. Hope you enjoyed the story. If you're not in a deep sleep by now, enjoy the peaceful fireplace background and drift into peace.